All right. Good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. So, everybody good? All right. So, we started this week with persistence or storage. All right. On Saturday, we looked at client-side storage. Right. We looked at local storage. Then we looked at session storage, and then we looked at cookies. Okay. Let's see. So we started with client storage. We did local storage. We did session, and then we did cookies. Okay, so local storage, session storage, and cookie, and all of these are client-side storage. And what do I mean by client? The browser, right? We saw in our browser when we go into our console, there's a tab, application tab, and then you can see all three of these, and we are storing some information. Okay. Difference between local and session storage. Local storage is there forever, even if you close your browser. Session storage is by session. This means as soon as you close your tab or your browser window, the information that you are saving goes away. Okay. We saw cookies are kind of combination of both. If you don't have an expiration date or time for cookies, they follow kind of same strategy as session storage, right? As soon as you close the browser or the tab, it goes away. Unless you have an expiry date on it, then it follows the date or number of seconds. Okay, we saw a couple of properties, max age or the expiry time. Okay, so all of these are related to our browser. Today we are going to talk about server-side storage. Okay, and so today we are going to talk about server storage, and our first storage that we are going to look at on the server side is Firebase. Okay, throughout the course we are actually going to look at three technologies which are server side. The first one is Firebase, second is going to be MySQL, and the third is going to be MongoDB. Okay, all are examples of server side storage. Okay, I remember we talked about some of the advantages and disadvantages, right? Client side, of course, is faster, but you have limited space, like 5 or 4 MB, that's it. Okay, not very secure. Server side is slower. It's going to be slower compared to your client side, but it gives you a lot more space and a lot more security. Okay. So today and Thursday, we're going to be looking at server-side storage. Now, server-side is always, as I said, more more difficult and a little bit more trickier to understand versus the client side. Okay, so today we are going to kick off with Firebase. Please make sure you clearly understand, because that's going to be a lot of JavaScript code. We have to configure Firebase database also, and then we have to write our JavaScript code to actually talk to that. Okay, kind of similar to the client side, but this time our data is going to be on the cloud, and Google provides a free tier, and that's what we will be using. Okay, before I start with Firebase, any questions on the client side storage? Anything about the concept? Does everybody understand concept, and why would you use client storage versus server side? Okay, client side, usually we have our authentication. When you look into authentication, you will see that you get a token back, and what generally we do is we kind of store those tokens in our client side storage, and that's how we check if the person is still authorized or their token has expired and all kind of that stuff. Okay, server side, we are actually storing data, large amount of data. Okay, for example, let's suppose you have a website that stores information about a person or a user, like first name, last name, phone number, and blah blah blah, right? All of those are kind of stored on your server side. You would store that at a database. Okay. um, Again, before I start on the server side, any questions on the client side storage? Everybody understand the concept, the differences between both of them? Why would you use one versus the other one? Okay. All right. So the first thing is, as I said, Firebase. Firebase is it's called a runtime database, and I'll talk about what runtime means. The first thing is database, right? A database means it is used to store a lot of data. Okay, Firebase is a product from Google. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the products from Google, and Firebase is basically like an umbrella of different products. Okay, um, from the umbrella of product that is called Firebase, we are going to use just one, which is database. Okay, Firebase has a lot more, and when I show you the console, you will see they have a lot more options. But from those, we are just using one option right now, which is database. We want to store some information from our website into a cloud store, and Google kind of provides that. For now, it's free unless you kind of go over the limit. Their limit is pretty decent. Till now I haven't had a complaint anybody saying that they were doing a project using Firebase and they actually went over their limit. Right? If that's the case, you probably are in the wrong program. As I said, you probably would be making more money with your website if you are getting that much data. But feel you'll be fine. You won't actually reach their limit. But again, they have tiers. If somebody is using more professionally, of course, they're charging for that, for providing that space. Okay, for now in this class we are good. Okay, all right. So Google Firebase. The first thing is, let me show you. I'm going to walk you through how to set up a database. Right. The first time, please just look at, see how I'm doing. If you want to take down notes, that's good. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to walk you through, and this time you will do it yourself. All right. But the first thing, please make sure you see the steps, understand, because if you miss one of them, it's not going to be set up correctly, basically. Okay. All right. So the first thing is, we are going to go to firebase.google.com. Okay. I should be already signed in, but what you have to do is you have to sign in with your Gmail account. Let's see. So over here, I'm signed in. But if you have never signed in into Firebase, you will get a prompt saying, "Hey, go ahead and type in your Gmail account." And by your Gmail account, they're kind of tracking that, and they will give you some free space, free tier with it. Okay. Um, I have some different accounts. This is um, for some of the. It's for this course as well, but these are kind of like a master one. You don't have to worry about it. Basically, I'm going to show you setting up using my personal account, and you guys will be following the exact same steps. Okay. Um, let's see. So the first thing is, what we are going to do is, we're going to go to get started. Let's see what it brings us to. All right, now imagine 32 of you doing the exact same thing in a bit. It's going to take a while. All right, the first thing you're going to do is do a create project, okay? And you're going to give some name to your project. The example that I'm going to show you has to do something with counter, so I'm going to name my project click counter, okay? You guys will have the same name, probably because that's the example we will be doing, okay? We are not worried about analytics, so I'm going to disable this, okay? Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and create my project. Now, when you create your project, this has not created a database or anything. Remember, I was saying Firebase is an umbrella of products. That's what you're doing. Firebase at this point is going to create a project that you can use different products within Firebase. Okay. Firebase has a lot more products. It has given access to you with all of them. From there, product you're going to use the database part. Okay. So for now, it's just creating a product. It doesn't know what you're trying to do, what you're going to do with it. It's just going to create a Firebase project and give you access to everything. Okay. Oh, it looks like it is ready. And then continue. Okay. All right. So on your left side, on your console, you will see database, authentication, storage, quality, and all of this. Okay, so these are different, and ML kit means machine learning kit. All of these products are available to you, but we are not looking into it right now. The only thing we are looking at is the database. Okay, so once I come over here, I'm going to click database. Okay, so within database, you have two options: Firestore or real-time database. That's what we are looking for. Okay, extremely important. We are going to create a real-time database, right? I'm going to explain what real-time does is, and you will see that in action. But we are trying to create basically a database, right? And it's going to be this option. Okay. Once you create, click this. This is important. Okay. We want to select test mode. Okay. Test mode means it's going to take the security part out of it, and that's we don't want right now. And if your app is in production, you definitely want it more secured. For now, we are not going to worry about security or anything. We just want to access a data store from our JavaScript application. Okay, this is the easiest way. If you choose security, you will not be able to access in a simpler way. You have to add some more authentication. All right. For now, we are just testing it out. We just want to get started. Even in your projects, this is okay. Okay. Don't worry about the authentication right now. Okay. So I'm going to say start in test mode, and then we're going to enable. And this has created a Firebase database for you. Okay. Let me go back and walk you guys through this step one more time, and then you guys will do it. So I'm going to go into my project settings. If for some reason you don't like your project, you can go ahead and delete it. Did it delete? Yes, 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 yes. All right. Again, the first step was go to firebase.google.com. Okay. Sign in with your Gmail. You will come to this screen, and then you are going to create a project. Oops. Create a project. You're going to give a name to your project. For example, our next example is related to counter, so I'm calling it click counter. Okay. Continue. I'm going to disable analytics and everything. I'm not interested in those right now. And then I'm going to do a create project. Okay. It'll take a few seconds, and then I'm going to have my project ready. All right, let me complete this one more time, and then I'll walk you guys through, and then you guys can follow me, okay? Because I want to show you one more thing before you guys do this. Okay, so my project is ready. At this point, again, I have my project ready with Firebase. I don't have database ready. So I'm going to go into my database link over here on my left side, and then I'm going to scroll. I don't want Cloud Firestore. I'm looking for real-time database. Okay, I walk here, I say, okay, go ahead and create a database. I don't want security right now. Okay, I'm going to start in test mode. This is going to let me easily access my database from my JavaScript code without any authentication. That's what this means. Okay, I'm going to enable this, and this time my database is created. Okay, and then you will see on the top real-time database. This tells you that this is done correctly. If you see Cloud Firestore, you haven't followed this step. Okay, it has to be real-time database. Okay, one more thing is If you go back to some other screen, for example, let's go back to our project settings, okay, any other screen, and you come back to your database, you will see it won't exist. It's going to be removed. Okay, it will bring you back to this screen. So don't freak out. You have to go through and create it again. Okay, this is Google's way of saving space and kind of deallocating if you don't have any data. Don't worry, if there is data, it's not going to get deleted. Okay, but if you don't have anything right now, I don't have anything, it's null, right? And at this point, if I go somewhere else, Google is going to take that space and kind of claim it back. Okay, if you have any data, then you will see your database permanent over there. Right now, I clicked over here, I come over here, and then if I go back to my database, again, it's done, it's deleted, right? It's going to bring me back to this screen. And then I have to create it again. Okay, but once, if you are satisfied, just be on this screen. Again, if you go to a different screen, we'll have to recreate it. But the other thing is, once you have some data, and we are going to put some data here. That's you know what? Let's go ahead and put something. Oops. Okay, now I have some data over here. Now, if you go back and come back, it's going to show you this database again. Okay. The only way you are not going to see this if you don't have any data, Google is kind of going to claim that space back with you. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. So let's go ahead and do this together. So I'm going to go back to my project settings. I'm going to go down and delete this project. All right. Select all and then delete. Okay. So go ahead, Firebase.google.com or just search for Firebase. Make sure you sign in and come to this screen. Okay, is everybody on this screen or already has advanced? Good. Okay, good. All right, so you create a project, give it a name. The example we are going to be following is click counter, so it's better to have the same name, but you can have any name you want. Okay, continue. I don't want analytics for now, so I'm going to go ahead and create a project. Okay, go ahead and click on database, create the database in test mode. All right, please make sure you're creating a runtime database in test mode. Okay, and then this should bring you to this point. If you don't want this to disappear, so go ahead and put some value, put a number because that's what we are going to be using, or you can keep it over here and come back and recreate it once we are ready. Okay. So that's why you see that you will see this message over here saying security, anybody can steal your data, because we are using it in test mode. All right, any questions? Yes. It's not showing? That's interesting. Do you see it? I see Cloud Firestore.
Yeah, no, it came up. It was like under different little tabs.
Oh.
It had its own little tab. We didn't have it open like this.
Oh, okay. So what happened was that if you click develop, it kind of shrinks, and then it's in the develop tab. Okay. Anybody else? Everybody got here? Again, we need to make sure you guys understand everything from today's class and the next, because in project this is an absolute requirement that you have to use Firebase somehow. Okay. You good, Ethan? Goose,
You
good?
save on me?
No. You don't have to save anything. It's every time you go to your console, this database will show up. Okay, once it has data. All right, the next thing is I'm literally going to walk you through the documentation, right? The code that we are going to be doing is nothing that I have created. It's all from the documentation, all right? So, but of course, I'm not going to go through every single part of the documentation. That's your job for later. But please, the documentation is your guide to how to use this console, okay? So what I did was over here, it says go to the docs. I opened this in a new link. And then you will see Firebase has different options. Firebase is kind of popular with mobile projects, especially for Android and iOS. So that's why they're on the top. What we are trying to do is we're trying to do for the web. Okay. So I'm going to go to get started for web. And it will bring me to this documentation. Okay. So let's see what part have we done. Step 1, create Firebase data project. Okay, we did that. And then it outlines some of the steps that I just walked you guys through. Okay, so this is done. The next thing it says, we need to register our app. Okay, so we need to go into our project overview page and click on the web icon. All right, so let's go back here. Okay, project overview, click on settings, and then project settings. Scroll down. Right now it should say there are no apps in your project. Okay, we are not doing iOS, we are not doing Android, we're doing web. So I'm going to click on the web and I'm going to add an app to my project. Okay, now it says you can enter name for your app. This is more for internal. This is what Firebase is kind of going to assign an ID for. Okay, so since this is my click counter example, I'm going to call it click dash counter. So if you see, when I create a project, I use more like a human readable name. I said click counter like you would write English. But when I am registering my app, I'm using a different syntax. I'm using click dash counter. Okay, again, you can name anything you want, but this is the naming convention that I usually follow. Okay, this is more technical, versus my project name is more that if somebody sees it, then oh, this is I see what this project is doing.
You went under your apps, or no new apps?
No, I went into project settings.
Okay.
Project settings on the top.
Yeah.
Okay, and then scroll down. It will say no new apps, and then we are creating an app for our web. The third option here,
Okay.
the HTML tag. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a click counter. We are not going to worry about hosting right now, and I'm going to go ahead and register my app. Okay. Is everybody on this screen? Good. All right. So let's go back to keep it on this screen because we are going to copy paste this code over here. All right. So we are going to go back to your documentation. We set up optional Firebase hosting. Don't need this. And we're going to come to the third step. All right. So third step is saying that these are the script libraries that you want to use in your code. Okay. If you want to access the database, the app from your JavaScript code, this is the code required. All right, let me quickly walk you guys through, and this should be familiar. It's not about what the link is, it's about what's going on. Okay, I have a script tag, okay, and it says on the comments that this is your core Firebase SDK. It is absolutely necessary if you want to use Firebase from your JavaScript code. Okay, so I'm going to copy this library. All right, the second two, it says add Firebase products that you want to use. Okay, again, as I mentioned, we are using real-time database product. Okay, so we want to look for a library that kind of responds to that. Right now in the example, it says Firebase auth, Firebase Firestore. Those don't look correct. I mean, I'm not using authentication, I'm not using Firestore, I'm using real-time database. So the name should be kind of similar. So if you look at the documentation over here, it says include the entire, let's see, not this one. Okay, let's go on to the next step. Nope, I think I missed it. Let's see, where's the, oh, there it is, yeah. In the same step, it says to include only specific Firebase products. So I'm going to open this in a new link, and I'm going to see if the product that I'm trying to use is listed over here. Oops. It's short. I think it's my screen size kind of goes away. Okay, there it is. So you click that link. It says which one am I trying to use. I'm using it from the CDN because I need to include it in my script file in my JavaScript. So I'm going to open this, and then these are all the libraries that are included in Firebase. I'm not interested in authentication right now. Don't need Cloud Firestore. Don't need this messaging. Nope. And then the last one, you will see real-time database. So this is the script file that I want to add. Okay. Any questions so far? Do you guys see how I'm walking through the documentation? All right, not too bad. All right. So let's go ahead and start our coding then. Let's go back up on step number 3, and I'm going to jump into my code now. Okay, so in my code, I have my index HTML, right? And I have my click button. So in my index HTML, I just have my Java jQuery added and my JavaScript file added. Okay, so over here from the documentation, they're saying the first thing I need to do is I need to include this file. So I'm going to copy this script file and I'm going to add this to my code over here. Okay. The second is based on the product that I'm trying to use, which is real-time database. I'm going to go back to my Firebase products. I'm going to go down. I'm going to search here, and this is the file that I need. There should be a copy button. There it is. Okay. And then I am going to include this after my Firebase SDK. Okay, everybody good? All right, so let's go back to our documentation. Scroll back up. On step number 3, I completed this part. I'm good. The next is this thing. Initialize Firebase in your app. All right, so let's go back to our app that we created, and you will see that Firebase kind of nicely gives you the configuration that you need to put in your code. Okay. Again, let me quickly walk through this. Firebase config, what is it? It's an object, right? Why is it an object? Because I see these curly braces, all right, familiar. Firebase config has few properties, API key, domain, database URL, project ID, messaging sender, app ID, all of this stuff, okay? So this is how Firebase is going to differentiate the database from yours and mine. Okay, you guys are going to have a totally different API key, different name and everything, and I'm going to have a different one. Okay, if you copy this exact thing and then try to link it, you're going to link to my database, right? If I copy one of yours and try to do it, I'm going to basically link to your database. Okay, but this is the key, this is the configuration, and this is how Firebase is determining where to go and put the data in. Okay. Again, this is very high level. You don't have to have a good understanding, but basically understand that this is the configuration and this is the identifier that Firebase knows which database to go and kind of put your data in. Okay. Let's see. So they're saying go ahead and copy this. So you guys are going to copy this, what you guys have, and I'm going to copy the one that I have over here. And I'm going to copy this over in my JavaScript file. This is jQuery, so I'm going to start my code with document.ready. Okay. and then I'm going to put a callback function. Okay, and there's my code is going to go inside it. Okay, again, you guys can watch right now because there's a whole exercise, but make sure you understand what I'm doing. Okay, so the next part, I'm going to copy the configuration that I just copied from the site. I'm going to change this to let, and there are no changes over here. Okay, so this is absolute necessary in your JavaScript code, otherwise Firebase is not going to work. It's going to give you an error. Okay, and it wouldn't know where to do what. All right, so let's go back to our documentation. We have completed this. We completed this part, and then this is optional, so I'm not going to worry about this. Okay, so these are the config. We have set up our Firebase database to be called from our JavaScript code. Okay, so let's go back here. This is done. I'm going to do continue to console, and then I'm going to go back to my database. And since I didn't have any data, so it deleted that database, so I'm going to recreate it, and then I'm going to stay on that screen. All right. So let's go back here. Oh, this is done. Let's go back to our documentation. All right. And the documentation on the left, setup is done. I'm going to scroll down to the documentation for real-time database. All right. These are all different. As I was saying, these are the products that come bundled in the Firebase umbrella. Right now, we are only concentrated on real-time database. Okay, but you see, there is a lot more options also. I'm going to open real-time database documentation. I'm going to looking for web, all right? And then we'll start from here, get started. All right, let's see. So installation is set up in JavaScript. We already did this part. We did the config. Let's go and do the next step, which is structure data. All right, let's see. How your data is structured. All right, important. It is structured as a JSON. All right, we understand what JSON is now. Once we put some data, you will see that it is structured as JSON. Okay, just keep that in mind. All right, let's see. These are just more explanation. How do you divide your data? We are not there yet. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to put some data in our database. There it is. Save data to your real-time database. Oops, something went wrong. Oh, there it is. Okay. Everybody good? Any questions so far? Good? All right. So the first thing we have to do is after configuration, it says get a reference to the database service. All right. Looks like there is a Firebase object and it has a function called database, and that's what we need to do. So we need to get a reference of this database. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I am going to go ahead and create a reference. Database is equal to, of course you guys understand I could just copy paste that, but for you guys I'm actually typing this whole thing out. Dot database. Okay. All right, so this is important. I'm done with this. Let's see, how do we set our data now? Okay, so the function is called set, and I'm going to walk you through this documentation. I'm going to write this function out so that you guys can see in the code, and then I'm going to open this window so that you guys can see once this thing fills up. So let's see if I can. Nope. Okay. How do I do this? I need this running as well, so I'm going to go ahead and run this. Okay. Has to be side by side. Let's see. We can do something like this. Okay, so if you run your code and you don't see any errors in your console, this means your setup is correct. Why? Because it would have given you some errors as soon as you try to initialize and access your database. All right, if you got to this point, there are no errors. This means probably this everything is set up correctly. Okay, so let's see, what should I start with? Okay. So if I want to store any data, okay, the function is called set. So the first thing is database, the object that I just created on line number 16, okay, dot ref dot set. Okay, ref means reference, and we are going to come to this part in a bit. It's a little bit more trickier. The more important is set. If I want to add any data to my database, the method is called set. Okay, all right. Let me go ahead and move these to different lines so that you guys can actually see it nicer, because set is going to get bigger. All right, now just as the ajax method in JavaScript, set takes in two arguments. Both are going to be callback functions, right? What does ajax do with two callback functions? The first one is, what is it? What does the first one tell us? I heard somebody say success. Yes, success. And the second one tells us error. Okay, same thing over here. The set method takes in two callback function. The first one is going to tell us success, and the second one is going to tell if there is any error. Okay, so exact same code. The first is going to be function oh, actually, you know what? I think I jumped ahead. It's not this one. Let me get back. Sure. Oh, it's a different method. It's on. So later on, let's see. Set. Okay. All right. Sorry. So that's the on method, and I'll walk the on method again. The set method actually takes in the data that you're trying to store. Okay. Now, what is the type of data that we can store in our Firebase database? What is it? No, I just said it in the documentation I showed you. JSON. It has to be in JSON format. Okay, and what is JSON? It's a JavaScript object. So in your set method, you need to pass in a object. Okay. Now, let's say this is my click counter example. So I'm trying to pass in a count, click count, and then I'm going to pass in, let's say 1 for now. Oops. Okay. 24 minutes. Okay. So set method takes in a object, right? And that's your data. So right now my data, how does my data look like? I have a property called click count, which is a number, so it's taking a number. And that's what's going to be stored in my database. So let's go back and look at our, where did I close that? No errors. Let me run this again. So you see, it added 2. So now let me go ahead and change this to 2. And it's updated to 2. Okay, now where is this click count coming from? Again, this is the name of the property that I have over here. Okay, change it to 3. It's going to be updated and changed to 3. Okay, now since this is an object, can I have more than one properties? I can. Let's say I'm going to store name. Now I have a data which looks like this. Okay, multiple properties, and this is how it's getting updated. All right, you see how these are being set. It's an object, right? And each object kind of becomes your property. So this is the main one, and it has different properties. Okay, so this is how you insert data from your JavaScript into your database, the Firebase database. Okay, set method takes in an object. All right, any questions? Everybody understand that? Really? Oh, because man, this would be a first time anybody has. Usually people start hating Firebase like at this point. They're like, nope. Still good? Really? Okay. All right. All right. So let's make it a little bit more interactive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a button, right? And I'm going to, every time I click that button, the count is going to go up and it's going to update in my database. That's simple method. So I'm going to let me go ahead and create a button first. So I'm going to, so that you guys kind of see this in action, I'm going to create a button. I'm going to give it an ID so that I can use this ID in my jQuery. Okay. Where's my HTML? My click me shows up here. Nice button. All right. Now what I want to do is every time this button is clicked, I want some data to be added. Okay. Let's go ahead and use our jQuery click counter. So I'm going to say ID is click button, right? Dot on takes in two arguments. The first one is the click, and the second one is a callback function. Okay. And I'm going to move this code inside it. Okay. Now every time this click happens, I want a counter to go up. So I'm going to create a click counter variable. Okay. And then I want this, every time this somebody clicks, I want this click counter to go up, and I want this to be updated to my database. Let's go ahead and I'm going to remove these. Okay. All right. So if this is correct, you should see this getting updated. So click 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Do you guys see how fast this is? It's almost like local storage. This is why it's called real-time database. Firebase from Google is extremely fast. The updates are extremely fast. You see, it's almost like you're accessing your local storage. Right? Remember the real-time database? This is why it's called real-time. Because the updates are extremely real-time. It's extremely fast. Okay? Now, with this knowledge, what do you guys think this database would be useful for? What kind of applications? What is it? I can't hear. Everything? Yeah, not everything. Something that is more real time. Weather. What else? Games, social media. What else? Anything else? Chat service, messaging service. You see how fast it has to be? Stock exchange, extremely real time. Yeah. So these are some of the applications that are useful for something like this, right? Firebase is extremely popular with your mobile apps, right? Because they have to be instantaneously updated, or if it's a messaging app, it has to be instantaneous update to the other person. So that's why you will see Firebase has really good applications with Android and iOS apps. Okay, it's used in web development also, but it's more popular in your mobile phone development, iOS and Android. Firebase, anybody who's creating an Android or iOS app, you will hear that they are most probably using Firebase as their backend, right? And the reason is because of this. It's real time, it's instantaneous update over here. That's how fast this is. Okay, even the network connection over here is bad. I was kind of worried. It's pretty fast. Okay. All right. Any questions? Good. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So this was how do you set the data in your database, right? Now, how do you read this back, right? I mean, setting is fine, but you want to be able to read this data back also, right? Maybe somebody is on the other end and they want to read the data, or within your application, you want to have that when I close this, my browser, when I come back to it, I want to know what the count was, okay? So for that, let's go ahead. I'm going to create like a p tag or a h1 where I can show what the current value of that click counter is. So let's say simple h1. I'm going to say clicked, and then let's add a span tag. How do I add a span? Span. Okay, and then I'm going to declare click these many times. Okay, and my span tag is going to tell me, let's give it an ID, click value, and I'm going to use jQuery and replace this text, and then this will show me how many times this has been clicked. Wow. Okay. Okay, that's all from the HTML. Let's go back over here, and then we are going to look at the second method, which tells us how to read the data. So we did the write from the documentation, basic write set method. To read is, the method is called on. Okay, do you guys remember the on method from somewhere else? When you click it, right? It's an event. What is it? It's an event. Okay, this is exactly the same usage of this on event. This on event belongs to Firebase, but the usage is exactly the same. It's going to have a string, okay, and then it's going to have two callback functions. Okay, the first callback function is going to be success, and the second is going to be failure. All right, so how do we write this? It's going to be, let's do it over here. Just as your set method, it starts with database, okay, dot ref dot on. Okay, I'm going to put these in new lines so that you guys can see. Okay, so since on is an event just like jQuery, it says click over here. The event that Firebase is listening to is called value. Okay, what does this mean? This means whenever the value changes in the database, fire this event. And when does the value change? When somebody clicks over here and this value gets updated. Okay, as soon as anything in your database changes, this event is going to be fired. It's an event, right? Exactly like this one. This is the click event. When somebody clicks, this event gets fired. Similar to this, Firebase is saying, if there's any change in my database, fire this event. Okay, so just like your click event, I said these are two callback functions. So the first callback function is going to have some data, so I'm going to put this in a new one and then call it success callback. Let's call this success callback. Okay, and your second is going to be your error callback, and I'm going to put a comment, error callback. Okay, let's complete the error callback. It's easy, similar to Ajax. It will give you an error. All right, you can console log that error, and this error is coming from Firebase. Okay, so just go ahead and log that error. Okay, now similar to Ajax, this is going to send you some data back. All right, you guys see the similarity? It's kind of combination of both your jQuery click event and your Ajax method. Okay, because this is an event, so anytime a value changes, it's going to fire. If it is successful, if it gets that data successfully, it's going to fire the first one, and just like jQuery, you can store that in your response. Okay. All right, I'm going to pause over here. All right, drink some water, and then you guys have any questions? I have not spoken this much before stopping actually.
Is it going to get all the values back from the database?
Good.
One?
It's going to get everything. Good question. We are going to console log and see what comes back, but it's going to send you everything. This is important what John is asking. It's going to send you everything. Okay? So this is the reason in documentation you are going to see, instead of, you can name this anything you want, right? But you will see generally this is called snapshot. This is what it means. It's going to, as soon as there's the value change, it's going to send you the snapshot of your current database, right? This means it's going to send you the whole data, whatever the data is at this point in time. That's why it's, traditionally you will see snapshot written over here. Basically, it just means it's sending you the snapshot of your whole database. Okay? Again, you guys understand, right? You can put this anything you want. S, response, rest, it doesn't matter. But in the documentation, you will see snapshots. I wanted to clarify the reason they are putting this naming is the snapshot, because it's going to give you a snapshot of your whole data at this point in time. What is the point in time? Whenever the value changes. So at this point, my snapshot, this is my data. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and console log this snapshot so that we can actually see how the data is coming from and how do we parse all this stuff. Okay, so let's go back to our app, and there is my console for this one. Let's see, what is it, console logging? Okay, so I mean, this is like too much information, but I'll show you the method that you can actually get everything out. But if you open this, you will see it's actually sending you the snapshot of everything. Okay, now the method to actually get your data is called .val. Let's console log that out. Okay, so you see it's going to give you the current value. That's how you get it. Everything is JSON, so it's going to come back. This .val is going to give you an object. If you have more than one, it's going to have comma delimited just like an object. All right. Now, if you want to get that exact value, you would do dot click count, right? Just as your any parsing that you do. Okay, just as you do your JavaScript, your JSON parsing. So let me go back over here, and then let's go back and click something so that we make sure this comes back. Oh, it refreshed everything. Oh, okay, I know, because I have this set as 0. Okay, so I click, you see the numbers are changing, but you see I'm getting different object. It's console logging everything. Why? Because at this instant, the snapshot of this data was 2. At this instant is 7. That's why you see different. Every time, this shows us that every time the data changes, this function, this event is getting fired. Okay, now since I have the value, what do I have to do? I have to parse, take the click count out of it, and just show it in my span tag, and that should show the value. So for example, dollar, what was the ID? What did I call it? Click value. So on my click value, I want to show the text, and Let's go ahead and save this. Let snapshot value is equal to snapshot dot well. Okay, and within this value I'm trying to access the click count. Again, you could do the whole thing in just one, but I just want to make sure that you guys can see how this is working, and this should replace with my click count. Okay, so click. Let's go ahead and close this. So please note what is happening. When you click, it makes a trip to the server, goes back, updates your database. All right? And then in the same instance, it comes back and actually gets this value from your database. All right? You see how fast that is? That's why it's called real-time database. Looks like I'm just updating from my jQuery or I'm using the counter, but you can see that I'm actually not using the counter. I'm actually using it, the value that is returned to me, and then show it on my screen. Okay? This is why it's super fast, and this is the reason it's called a real-time database, because the updates are real-time. All right, any questions? No questions? So either you guys got it or you guys like, nope. All right. So let's go ahead and do an exercise. It's a similar one that I just did. So you guys are going to create, follow the same strategy, create a config file, set up your database, insert some values. The exercise is number 11. It's called countdown button. So I'm going to stop this. And I'm going to use the same config. So, all right, I'll put this on. All right, so we are doing exercise number 11. So you have two options. Logic is a little bit easier. The only reason is it has more comments, or you can use logic option 2. This is more difficult. The difference is it doesn't have as many comments, but the code and everything is going to be exactly the same. Okay, I'm gonna pull this up. And then do this. So the only difference is instead of increasing the counter, you guys are decreasing the counter. Okay. Let's take 20 minutes. I want to make sure that everybody is able to complete this exercise using the same code that I just showed you. Let me just put my code over here, because the next ones after this are, of course, a little bit more difficult than this one. Let me open my example so that you guys can. This is the one. And then this is how I followed. Okay. Again, the best way is make sure you understand how to read the documentation. Everything, all the code that I have written except the ref one, and I'll go through it. I'm actually just using it from the documentation. Okay. Remember, if you want to add some data, the method is set. If you want to read the data, it's on event. Set. All right, don't forget to add your script files in your HTML first. If you're solving everything in your HTML, uh, make sure it's in the correct location. Project is set up, your configs are set up, this thing is set up, and then line number 16. And this config is coming from your Firebase console, okay? I hope nobody is typing this out. Just copy paste from your Firebase console. Remember, go into your project settings, set up your app, and it should give you the information.
could be wrong, but I'm reading some body language that may qualify as confused. Again, we cannot help you guys if you guys don't let us know you right. So raise your hands, don't get over that kind of embarrassment about asking for help, because otherwise you guys
What do you guys want to do?
So this and then you would go into it to say, click on whatever the property is that you want to access. That can be part of it. Okay, yeah, we got one of those.
Good.
Okay.
All right, so we are out of time for this activity. Do you guys want 5 more minutes? Kind of coming to a close. Okay. So for those of you who are done, you will see that I'm getting this message. So it looks like you can have 10 projects at a single time in Firebase. Um, but you will see that I actually don't have, actually I have no project. I deleted my current one. But what happens is if you create a project, delete, create, delete, create, delete, it still counts towards your quota. And it takes from 1 day to a week for them to actually delete it. So for today, I only have like 3, even though I don't have any. So I think it takes them for like a day to a week to actually delete those projects. So if you run into this issue and you don't have any projects, I guess just wait a week or so. Make a new Gmail account and do it. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to be very careful in my next project because I have like 3 left for today. Anyway, I was just letting. So I think the limit is like 10 projects at the same time. But, yeah. So just to recap, we started with the config file, right? Config, just copy um, from your console. Again, for those of you, you will see that this is repeating code in every single project, right? I would suggest if somebody wants to try, they can create a function in a different file and just keep calling it. Just keep changing this. It's kind of like a reusable pattern. You're making it dry using the dry principle, but that's just my thought. That I would probably keep this in a separate file and then keep calling that file in my JavaScript code, because you will see that every single project you'll be kind of reusing this. The only things that are changing are your API keys and this and this. So just a suggestion. For now, if you didn't get it, that's fine. But we started with these config files, okay, and then from our documentation, we saw we need to initialize a database. And then if you want to set any value, you are going to use a set method. And if you want to read some value, you're going to use the on event. This is an event. Why is it an event? It's kind of similar to our click event, right? It takes our jQuery click event takes in a argument which tells it what's happening, right? Same thing over here, value. So every time a value changes in the database, Firebase is going to fire this event. Okay, similar to our Ajax function. There are two callback functions in your Firebase as well. The first one is called when it is successful. The second one is called if there's any failure from Firebase. Okay. Just as an Ajax, it sends us some data back, and then you can access that data using the .val function. Okay, and .val function is going to return your JSON object or an object, right? And then you can parse it based on what you're getting back. Right now, we just have one value in our database, so that's why I'm getting click count, right? If you have more than one, you're going to do dot and then refer to that value. Okay, that was a quick recap before we move on to the next activity. Was everyone able to complete this activity or not? No? What happened? Is there any error in the console? What? There is? Right, what's the error? What does it say? Just read the error. Okay, so right, so this, what did I say? This means that your script files are not either in the correct position. If you put it in your head tag and you're not using document.ready, then guess what? This needs to go in your body tag, right? If you are putting this in your head tag, the order is this. Firebase SDK has to be before your product SDK. If that's also correct, you should be using document.ready if you have those in your head tag. Is that what you did, Goose? Exactly. So if I walk over there, I'm going to find exactly this thing. So the database error, you don't have this dot ready? Okay. So is it failing on line number? It tells you the line number. What statement is it failing on? Yeah, what's the statement at number 2? Well, anybody else having errors? Is it working? Good. All right. Again, if this exercise is not working, the next ones are not. What was there? What was the issue? Is it working? Take two awkward here. See, it's not that easy, right? Yes. Saving the value to Firebase, yes. What is it? Did you use a set method? The huh? Yeah. Remember that's how you save it to the database, right? They're using the set method. Um, this method you didn't use this, right? This is how you set the values in the database. Okay, give me like 2 minutes. And then you guys can, if you are stuck in this activity, please make sure you complete, because going forward, none of these activities are going to work if you are not able to complete the first one. Okay, but I see a lot of people have completed, so I'm going to show the exercise number 13, and this is most recent user activity. Now remember, from Saturday we did this exact same activity. We started with local storage, then we changed it into session storage, then we changed it into cookies, and now you guys are going to change it to Firebase. Okay, activity number 13. Same thing, form will come up. You're going to, let me run this. But this time you are saving this information in your Firebase. Okay, remember we did click count, we did just one. In our object you were just saving one value, right? We were using click count and then just one, but you can have multiple properties, and that's what you're going to do in this activity. So all of these are multiple properties: name, email, age, and this information. I would recommend creating a new project for this, right? Instead of using the same database, and then walk through the same steps, create a new project, maybe call it most recent user, and then go ahead and update this HTML file with your Firebase config and everything. And then on add user, you're going to take all that information and use a set method and update your database. Okay, same example from Saturday. We started with local storage, then we did session storage. This time you are taking this information and putting it into your Firebase. Okay. All right, so this is for those of you who have actually completed the previous one. If you're still stuck, we'll take a break. We'll start back at 8:15, but I want to make sure that everybody is able to complete at least the first one, because after this, these are more difficult activities. Okay, so we'll come back at 8:15. Meanwhile, if you have questions, error, please let me know. The TAs know, and we'll work on it.
I think my issue is something with the Firebase. It's just creating the database. So it's like I created this database a bunch of times, and then when I leave.
Right, I told you, right? If you don't have any data and you leave, it's going to go on.
Okay, so now that it's here.
Okay, just stay here.
Okay. And then. Oh, sorry. So this should be connected. This is coming from the database. This console log.
Doesn't look like it.
It's not.
What I mean, I don't see anything over here, so I'm not sure how this. Show me
You
your
want
code.
to? Yeah. Is this the right one? Okay. So. Yeah, it said it was going to be 17.
Yeah, you're just outputting already. That's not coming from the database.
Okay.
So go to your cons, and this is the one that is running, right? And this is good.
Yeah, we just copied it from
Okay.
settings.
Okay. So show me your when you click, what happens? Where's the click function over here?
Yes, it's not here. Right? Click on.
So where's your database set method?
Okay.
So you're not. You see this what should happen on click? It should go and save your value on the database.
Okay.
Right?
So
Do you have any function over here which sets it? You don't.
where should I put it? Just inside anywhere in the click function?
Yeah, well, you can do it if click counter is equal to 0. What is this? Yeah, you can do it after line number 79. You do it at that.
Okay. So
So it was,
is it
database? Yeah, right.
database?
Yeah. Dot ref,
Ref.
and then dot set. Okay. Semicolon at the end. So set takes an object, right?
Okay.
So
Inside there?
yeah, takes an object argument. So object, yeah, enter, put it in a new one so that you can see.
Right.
Now, property name, what do you want to call it? Click counter. Okay, and then what are you trying to set?
Like you mean decrement?
Well, what are you trying to set this value to? You're trying to set this counter.
Yeah, click counter. Okay, I'm gonna do click count, so it's not the click counter
Okay.
equals.
Not equal to, this is a JavaScript, colon,
Okay. All right, it's an object.
right?
Okay.
Yeah. And then
Click counter.
that's it. That's it.
Okay.
It's object, right? No, you don't put semicolon. But
Yeah,
there's
if you had something else, right?
Yep. Now try it. Now it should. You see, now you are setting something when you click.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Now you have to complete the reading part so that you can see that click over here.
Okay.
So that is setting, and reading is the dot on method.
So what goes in the ref section?
Right. That's, yeah.
We just haven't gone over.
Yeah,
it?
we haven't gone over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So explain it one more time. The ref and the set.
Okay, so forget about ref.
Okay.
What about set? Set is used to insert.
Sends an object to the database.
Right, to insert, it basically inserts some data into your database.
Right. So
Okay.
if I just were to like go
Yeah.
name,
And then put
it's a
something.
string
Yeah, it's going to go ahead and insert that when you,
when I click
Yeah.
on the button.
yes.
Oh.
Show me your.
Buggered that up. Oh, I need it.
What is it? Oh, no, that looks good. Did you refresh the page?
This?
Your HTML. Is it live?
Oh, you know what? You're right. No, it's not. It's
Okay,
not.
then you have to refresh it. So,
Right. Okay.
this should be refreshed. There you go.
Okay. Cool. Thanks, Daniel.
So the next activity is now you're going to insert multiple, like name, email, age, exactly the same that you have. You have name over there, so you're going to have name, email, blah 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 blah.
Okay.
But you are setting you're not reading from the database. How do you read from the database?
Is it this dot on?
Dot
It's the same thing.
So where would that go? Inside set or after?
No, after set. Yeah.
Okay.
Go back to your code. It's going to be. Well, this is click. You don't want it in the click because you're
Okay.
reading it, right? So it
So
has to be
database.
outside. Yeah.
Database. So I'm not gonna leave you.
Dot ref. No, I want you to get this. No, dot ref dot on. Is it dot on? No, dot ref dot on.
Oh, okay, right. Because it's the second one again.
And mine works.
Ref is a function, so you're missing parentheses.
Well, scroll up. You have your.
Oh, also missing an F.
You have that. So we didn't do a dot.
Okay. Now on takes 3 arguments. The first one is value,
Value.
and the other 2 are 2 callback functions, success and failure.
Okay, just like an API kind of.
Yes, just like an Ajax.
Oh yeah. Snapshot is what we're gonna call it.
Yeah.
And then there's a function
Well, you're missing curly braces. You want a function
after
body.
the
Function body. Okay.
Right.
So that's the first function.
and then console. I'll just do
Yeah.
the console log
Just like I'm doing here.
shot dot val parentheses.
Yeah. This is going to give you everything from your database.
Okay.
So the console log you should be getting. It's already you're getting it back.
Oh, okay.
And because on your
Oh,
page
it's not
refresh,
on the click button.
yeah, it's not on the click button.
Okay, cool.
So when you refresh your page, it's kind of
Okay, so was there something else I was supposed to do for this? Oh,
yeah. So now you have the val, but val has. You need to pull out. Val gives you the JSON back, right? If you go back to your code, to your browser.
Oh
console.
gosh, I should close doofus. Anyways.
So if you go to your console, you'll be getting 2 properties back. Open it, right? Click count and name. You want to pull the click count out.
Okay.
You see click count and name. Yeah, if you got this, don't worry about this one.
Right, so you just do like snapshot dot
Dot
click
val,
count.
well, dot val dot
Right.
name.
Dot click count.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm supposed to just do something with
Let's
that
show it over
data.
here so that if you want,
Okay.
so that shows. Oh,
I got
underneath.
it. Okay, I
But you
know
get the
how to
idea?
do that
Okay.
part.
Okay, that's good.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but this is important.
Thank you for walking me through it
Okay.
personally, holding my hand. I'm a little off today. I don't know.
Oh, that's fine. Well, but again, you got it. So try this one now. Remember this we did on Saturday with different local store. Now we are doing it with single site.
Oh, it's because this actually getting undefined here. So it's setting the center terms of policy. So, yeah, so we haven't actually set the count for the database yet. Create a new variable. So change this to counter to like 10. And then underneath that, it has an alert. That I was surprised.
That was part of the quick view dot text.
It's not the same thing, right?
But right here, so you're saying this to it's going to save snapshot now, so you don't have to reference it.
I don't know if she. Yeah, that's my daughter.
We want to access the database. And so here we're getting something from the database, right? Down below, we have to set something. Right? So at first we need I got it.
All right, it's 8:15, and we are working on activity number, what is this? 13. Okay, most recent user. So the same activity that we've been looking from Saturday, we did this activity using local storage, session storage, cookie. Now you guys are going to do this using Firebase. Okay, so work on this. I would suggest creating a new project in Firebase. So this will give you access to a different database versus the one that you guys have been using. I think I created. Where's my console? No. I don't know what happened to my projects. Go to console. Oh, there it is. Okay, so create a new one, follow the same process, and then try to complete this activity. Same thing. This time you are saving more than one value. You are saving name, email, age, and how did you hear about? So basically comments. So 4 fields you are saving in your database this time. So we'll take 15 minutes. Again, start with the configuration, at least create a new database. What, no? You can do, I have full confidence you guys can do it in 15 minutes. Come on, you guys can do it in. At least create the database in the console, even if you don't get to the coding one. You see how my things are coming down? I'm like, at least just create a database in the console. Yeah, kind of coming down. Now this is more. That's what I was like. How, you guys got this in like for 20 minutes? I'm so shocked. But seriously, look at the documentation. I'm just you can follow. It's the same thing. Start with add your copy that code from your console, put it over here. Okay, create the variable for database, and then over here you are using the set method to push the data in your new database.
Is this the Jimmy John?
Yeah, this is the Jimmy John.
Is that a trying to pick up a quick counter down?
Like, he just told me.
Somebody uses
Like we only have one, it doesn't have
So if you go back to just like your first one right here, like the very top. There you go. So now you can have projects. Alright.
this part, and
Okay.
then I click like caption.
Okay. Your task.
Figure out like how do I
Okay, so on. So we want to capture that value. That's
We've done that like previously.
valid. So how do we do that? Access.
Right.
It's not
But then
so you don't need to also this line in here. You do bar
Yeah, kind of like.
So the things you want to say, right? So we have to set up our variables. So what round?
now you now the
So there is an additional one that you can solve afterwards. So like you start to put in extra spaces. Basically taking spaces from execute those functions. Exactly. So this is just
Anyone completed the activity? Oh, one. Okay. Anybody else? Come on. You. Close. Anybody close? 2, 3, close. Okay, awesome, awesome. That's more like it. Okay. Who's very far? Okay, so nobody is very far. That's good.
So you need to basically you just set and you're saying you need to kind of tell it what she is. So the activity is really good. Figure out how you're designing.
All right. Let me quickly walk you guys through this activity. For those of you who are kind of struggling or not sure, let's see. So I have this page, right? I created a new database, and then these are my config, right? So the first thing is from the comments, I need to put in these config files, these Firebase ones. These are already there, so you don't have to worry about that. Initialize the Firebase. So let's go back here. I'm going to copy my config files, my config object, right? And please stop me at any point that you feel like you're lost. Okay, simply copy it from my settings. Okay, I hope everybody at least got this part. All right, the next part, as I showed you from the documentation, if I go to getting started, I copy this file. The next one is creating a variable database. Okay, so again, copy, create a variable database, and my Firebase is config is set up. Okay. All right, moving on. Again, this was just copy paste. The next part is when I click on add user, I want these values to be saved to my database. Okay. So the first thing is we are going to capture all of these variables. Let's go back here. Let name is equal to dollar oops, hash name input dot val. Okay. Similarly, we're going to capture name, email, and what was the last one? Comment. Email, age, comment. This is email, age, comment. Okay. This is still jQuery, so nothing. We still haven't done anything with saving the database. Okay. So now we have these properties. We're going to go ahead and save these to our database. The functions is database, right? Dot ref. Oops. Function. Dot ref, and then dot set. Okay. Move these to new line so that it kind of looks very pretty. Of course, I can't. Okay. We are going to ignore ref for now, and I'm going to come back ref in a minute. Okay. So set. What does set take? It takes an object, right? Because everything in the Firebase database is saving as a JSON object. This variable. Okay. The second one is email. I'm going to save email here. Age, and I'm going to save age, and then simply comment, and then comment. That's it. And this will save your values in your database if everything is set up correctly. Right? Any questions? Were you guys able to get to this part? No? Since you were not able to get to this part, what is the confusion, or do you have any questions? Okay, so the initial is I literally copy pasted in front of you guys from the settings, right? The only thing I did was capturing this. I am hoping everybody knows this by now, okay? This is just jQuery capturing those values. This is the next piece of code that I actually wrote, which is database.ref.set. If you want to set anything for today, there's only one method. We'll look at the other one, but for now we only know one method. If you want to store anything in your database, that is the set method. And what does set method takes? It takes an object. All right. In the previous example, we saw click count, just one property. This time we have multiple properties. So just like an object, I have created 4 properties and assigned these values to it. Yes. If you do what? No. What was the previous comment? If you? Yes. What does?
It just automatically updates the object and the property
This property name? It's
just puts it in alphabetical order.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter. Why does it not matter? Huh? Right. So that's what. However, it is receiving again. That's remember, it's still an async operation. It is getting these properties and it's storing in a different order. Maybe the order is so that you can see this in alphabetic order. I'm not sure. There might be a property that you can set and that will fix it. That hey, don't sort it in any order. Okay. There might be a property in the code, and we can look at that. That's not a big deal. But the thing is, do you realize that it doesn't matter to us? But when the data comes back, it's still object, and we are going to access it using .name, .email. So the order doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay. It's just being smart and kind of sorting them out in a manner. But there might be a property where we can say, hey, don't sort it, right? Because again, who's going to be looking at your database? It's going to be you as a developer, right? Nobody from the UI is going to be looking at your database because they're not concerned how the data is stored. Okay. All right, so any confusion on the setting part? Michael, you still look confused.
What is it that John referenced?
Okay, so what I have not covered, everybody is concerned about that. What I have covered, I'm coming to ref part. Other than the ref, that's what I said. Okay, now how do I do the getting part? Getting is it cannot be on the click, it has to be outside. So the hint is use the on method. Same thing, database dot ref. Okay, dot instead of set is going to be dot on, right? Forget about this. On is an event, takes in three things. The first is what the event is, that is value, and then your two callback functions, success and failure. So we'll do the snapshot. Okay, and the second one is the failure function. Function is going to give you some error back, and then error, show that error. Okay, in this case I'm going to get my snapshot back, and then how do I retrieve the value? Let snapshot value is equal to snapshot dot val function. This is going to give me an object, okay, with name, email, comment, and age. All right. What do I have to do? I have to display them back on the screen. So my elements are hash name display. Okay, and I'm setting the text, not toggle dot text, and my name text would be snapshot value dot name. Okay, and then the same thing with all the remaining ones. So change these to email. This is age. If these names are different, please let me know. I'm going by what the first one is. Comment, and this is going to be email, age, and then comment. Okay, this is how you would read anything from your database. Anytime any value changes, it's going to come back and do it. Okay, right now there's a constraint. The constraint is that this is an event. Something has to happen for this to work, right? So the first time you probably see that it doesn't refresh, it doesn't do anything because nothing is happening, most probably, but we'll see. But this is what this is doing, it's reading from your database. Okay? Now if I run, oh, it's already run. Let's look at the console, make sure there's no errors. Oh, there are. Access denied. Let's go back up and set up our database with removing the security. So go back, create database, test mode, enable, and now it should be good. Okay, cannot read the property of name of null. Again, why? Because my database is empty. That's what I was saying. The first time it runs, there's no. We will fix it in some point in time, but right now that's what's happening. So my database is set up. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and sign up, and you should be able to see something. Submit, and there's my data. Questions? Huh? Ref, I'm coming to ref. Okay. Any questions? No questions. Now what happens when I add a new value? It's going to change, but what happens?
Yeah, updated.
It updates. It basically overwrote your current record. Okay, please take that into account. Remember that. Anytime you change a value or you add a new value, it is updating the one that already exists. Okay? Ideally, it should be a new record because let's suppose Tony Stark and Steve Rogers are both users of my app. Right now, what is happening is overriding it. It's okay, right? We will get into that on Thursday. Right now, just understand that the set method is saving or inserting the data in your database. If it already exists, it just updates the same record. Okay, that's what the set does. All right, so that's how we insert the data. Now, everybody's question: what is ref? Uh, let me show you what ref does. Now, ref is what we call setting a path. Okay. Now you see this. What is this data tied to? This data is kind of tied to this object over here. Most recent user 3B22A. Did I create this object? I did not. This is coming from Firebase. They're auto-generating this path. Okay. So this happens when you don't put anything in your ref variable. Now, if you put something in your ref, let's see what's going to happen. Where's my... Did anybody try putting in something in the ref and see what happens? No? You did? What happened? All right, so let's go ahead and put some path. What do I want to put? Let's say users. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and insert user this time, and you will see what happens on the screen. All right, let's go back and set this back up. Oh. You guys see what happened? It created a, this is called a collection. This is how Firebase differentiates between different collections. This is called collection, and this is creating a path. So if you want to access anything related to this collection, it goes, next time what you have to do is when you're doing on, you have to say over here, go and get me users from this web. That's the users. Okay. Now let's suppose we can create another part. I want to let's say what do you some other details related to, let's say this is, okay, we'll go with two properties. All right. Now, it belongs to the same database, but it's a different collection. You're trying to capture users over here, but you're trying to capture a different set of information. Okay. If I don't have anything in the ref, what's going to happen? Everything is going to be tied to this thing. Okay. But what, let's say, let's call bank info. What Firebase allows is to differentiate your data in different collections. Okay. And this is what ref does. Basically, it's kind of like a path. You have to do slash and something. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and insert, what am I trying? I'm trying to create two different collections. One collection is users, and the second one is some bank details tied to that user. So let's go ahead and go back here. Okay. Let's remove these. Can I clear to see this? This. Okay. So you are going to, when you're building your project, when it gets bigger, you don't want all of your information in just one object. Okay. So this is what ref comes into play. It creates different collections, and then you can store the data in different collection. Kind of segregate your data. Okay. This is what ref does. So you have a user information, so you'll have all your users over here. You can have a different collection, such as bank info, then you'll have bank info collection over here, and so on and so forth. You can have as many collection as you want. This is what ref does. It segregates your data into more logical units, more logical part that makes more sense to you. That's what ref does. Okay? It's kind of part of the databases that use JSON format. When we use databases that are using JSON, these are called collections. Okay, this is a users collection, this is a bank info collection, and then you have more collections. Okay, if you put this as empty, it's going to assign it to this thing, this collection over here. Oops. No, I don't want to learn. Good. Okay, so it's going to create, it's going to assign to this. This is your parent collection, which we call a root collection. Okay, if you don't put anything in your ref, it's going to assign it to your root collection. Once you are doing your projects, you will see that you're going to put your information, your details in different collections because they make more sense, right? Bank info doesn't make sense to put into users. You want to segregate it out. That's why you have different this option in Firebase. Oops. And then when you're accessing it, if you have ref as collection, then you have to access it using the same path. Okay? If you access it without anything, what's going to happen? Which collection is it going to refer to? It's going to refer to this one. Okay? So this one, if this one doesn't have these values, this snapshot is going to give you a different set of collection. What is it going to give you? It's going to give you two objects, bank info and users. And then within those objects, you will have name, email, and all this stuff. So this code is actually going to fail, right? Because you're trying to access a root collection, and then you're saying, hey, go to my root collection and give me the snapshot. It's going to give you this information. But this information is actually embedded inside one of these collections. Okay? So if you are using ref, then make sure you are referring to the correct collection. That's what ref does. Okay, are you guys satisfied with ref now? Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you do without the ref part, I mean, you have to mention the ref function, right? It's a syntax error if you skip this part out. Like if you remove this, you can't do this. It has to be there. The only thing you can do is you can leave it. If this is empty, then it's going to give you the value, the snapshot of your root user, and the snapshot contains both of this. So you'll have to parse it saying snapshot value dot users dot name, email, that's all. Yeah. All right, any other questions? Yes.
If I have multiple users, I differentiate.
Yes. Right. Same thing. We haven't covered, and that's we'll get to that. What we have covered, do you guys have any questions on that? Yes, of course this is not reasonable, right? If I add another user, it's just going to override it. That's not feasible in this case, right? We will look at another method that takes care of this. We'll take a look at that on Saturday. Okay? Oh, not on Saturday, Thursday. But anything right now. Good question, and you will get that answer. Yes, the / Yeah. Why? What if I have, I can do this also, users / maybe my users are either superheroes or non-superheroes. So what is this going to do? It's going to create a collection users, and within that is going to create a sub-collection superheroes. Okay? So if I add this, 100. What did I miss? Oh, it's on read. Sorry. Slash super. Then it's going to add a collection, and then so there's a users collection, and then there's a sub collection called superheroes. It's going to keep adding. Okay. So you can keep going as deep as you want, whatever the path is. Right? And this is only possible. Why? Because this is a JSON supported database. Okay, so basically you have a root user, a root JSON, a parent, and then there's a child object. Within that, there's another object which has these properties. Okay, that's how you would parse them also. All right, any other questions? No? Okay, so let's take now the next activity is again it's difficult. I'm not going to lie, it's difficult. I want you guys to partner up, work it as a group. Again, preferably create a new database and then start working on that. And that is activity number 14, Coders Bay. So let me show you how it actually works. And then, okay, actually it's not as difficult. The thing is that you will see some new code over there. So please take some time, look into the documentation and see what that code is actually doing. Let's look at the solved one first. I hope my database is set up and it doesn't say I have overrun my limit. Let's see. Oh, okay, it's working. All right, so this is how it looks like, Coders Bay. And then what is happening is you can put a bid. Oh, 9,000. Let's say 9,001. When you submit it, this is going to your database and then saving it, and it's going to update with the highest bidder. That's all it does. Okay. But behind the scene, what is happening? There is a database setup. You're going to set up your database. Looks like two properties. Okay, bidder and the price, and then you're going to compare what is the price that I get. So let's suppose if I change this to 9,000, and if I submit, it says too low. It still doesn't update. Why? Because I bid less than whatever the highest bidder was. Okay, if you bid more than the highest bidder, your database is going to get updated and show you the highest bidder value. That's how this works. Okay, now let's see if I can access this exact database. Should be in a different. This. Okay. What is it? Oh, that's a good idea. Let's see. This one? It doesn't look like I have access to it. Let's see if I signed out, that's why. Nope, I'm still here. Is it working for you, Cairo?
Yeah,
This one?
oh, not that specific.
Oh, because you're going to your database. This is not mine. It is somebody else's. I'm trying to access it. Yeah, I was trying to show you guys how the database is set up. But the database has basically two properties over here. To kind of set your look at the code and kind of set your database accordingly. Let's see what we have for unsolved. Okay, so you already have the on one, and you are basically setting these two properties, high bidder and high price. These are the two properties that your new database is going to have. So if you start from the top, again, create a database, initialize it, copy those configurations on the top, and then go through the comments. The on function is already written for you. Okay. Um, take a look at this, what this is doing, but you have two properties in your database, high bidder and high price. So you need to create a database with these two properties. Okay. And let's see if we can find their password.
And again, this is the so that there's something that's going to right. So because whenever somebody is
Oh, yeah.
so it kind of seems like it's out there. The first one I would this is so that's what this is. So let's talk about this. So this first statement is I feel like he's got so let's say I'm done. Let's look. Okay. So now we say we want those variables. Right. So it's working on a database. We're inside of that. So we're inside of all that. Now the snapshot. So snapshot dot that's this. Again, that's the entire value. So like specifically, why all this looks like. So it's looking at so we can say
So if my high price is the property on snapshot, how do I get it? Snapshot dot val dot high price snapshot, right? And for high bidder, same thing. Just get the snapshot dot val dot high bidder. This will give you both these values from the database. So we already have access to this. We just have to get the properties from our database. Since you have these, you can set them in your HTML. What is your HTML? Highest bidder? Highest bidder and highest price. So simply set these value to those two. Let me copy the IDs. Highest bidder dot text. High bidder. And then high price. So just set these two.
It's
Yeah, text works on both. This is a number, so you can convert this into a number. Parse int, and then let's go ahead and convert this to a number. Oops. And then you can simply console log this to the, you can log this data to console to see if this is what you're getting back. Okay, I'm assuming that you guys have set up the configuration on the top. I'm not going to set up the configuration. I don't have enough database instances left for this week. Otherwise, I won't be able to do the next class. But you guys have probably set up the database and put all your configuration on the top. I'm just doing this part. So a snapshot should have these, and that's how you just get it. That should be it for this part. The next one is you are just comparing if the price that you have is greater than the one that's in the database. Let's see. Change the HTML to reflect. So if the Firebase doesn't have these values, then you can go ahead and set the initial one. So basically, you are just using this and setting a text to something, some initial values. There's nothing related to database over here, so I'm going to skip that. Okay, so this means that your Firebase doesn't have these initially. So what you're doing is you are setting, you're just going to set it to empty and price -1 or whatever you want. Oh, the if condition is already given. Okay, so if the bidder price is greater than the higher price, the alert shows up. Bidder is greater than the high, and then over here you're going to store the new value in your database. So database.ref.setup .set, and then pass in those two values. Database. I don't have that variable, so anyway. .ref .set. Okay, and then you're going to set those to. If you are using a path, then go ahead and use the path. But I think by default it doesn't have. So my properties are high bidder and high price. So I'm just going to copy this. High price is going to be bidder price now, because that's the bidder that is setting the bidder, the new value, and this is going to be bidder name. Okay, again, why? Because the bidder price is greater than the high price. So remember on the screen I showed you, if somebody bids higher, so my new database is going to have that as a high bidder now. So you're just setting it, it's going to go ahead and replace the previous value with the new bidder price and bidder value. Actually, that's it for the basic part from the database. The next is you can set the jQuery using jQuery. You can set in your HTML, but this is what you're doing. Initially, you are getting it from your database. The code is already there. You are using snapshot.val.highprice, okay, and then showing it on the screen. The next part was if somebody bids a higher price, and that's the condition is already given to you. If the bidder price is greater than high price, this means the new high would be this one. So you are setting your database with these two new properties. That's all you're doing. And then you can show it on the screen, but that's different. But those are actually the two things that you have to do, unless I'm missing something. This is, you can set in your HTML. I don't worry about that. Yep. Get the price. Same methods. Get the price. Okay. The function is already done for you, .on, so there's nothing to add over here. And the second method is set that you have to do. When somebody clicks set, submit, you go ahead and set the new values. What happened? Huh? Nothing? Okay, so let's take a pause over there. I just want to show you one more really cool thing over here. You don't have to do it, but when I show you, please go home. There's the next exercise, same one, Coder's Bay. Attempt this one first, and then use those concepts in the second exercise. But it's a really cool thing, and I will show you. And you guys must have seen this functionality in a lot of websites. Okay, for example, if you are booking a hotel room or an airline ticket, you have seen that it says, oh, 2 people are watching, 3 people are watching, right? It says these number of people are watching this ticket or this hotel price. You can have that same logic in Firebase as well. Let me quickly show you an example how Firebase does it, and then you can implement the same thing in your Coder's Bay. For example, did I post that example? I did. One time. So in your, for example, in your eBay or your bid watch, you can say, oh, 3 people are watching this bid or 4 people are watching this bid. You can do the same thing in using Firebase, and it's called presence. So this is the documentation. Again, we did the get started, right? We looked at the structured data, read write, right? The last one is enable offline capabilities. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, it's called managing presence. What it does is Firebase kind of keeps track of who is visiting your website. Okay, not like exactly who is visiting, but if somebody comes to your website, Firebase makes an entry in the database saying, oh, somebody is visiting your website. If 2 people are visiting, it will keep the counter and say, oh, 2 people are visiting, or 3 or 4 or 5. Okay, it's called managing presence. The code is here. You don't have to. I'm just going to copy paste this code and show you how this is actually working. So in my example, I have. Let me show you. I already have my stubbed out. Right now it says nobody is watching. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I have my config setup. Oops. Oh. Let me make sure my properties are good. Yeah. Okay, so I have my config, and I'm reusing this database because I'm running out of databases. So I'm going to use this one. Okay. So I'm going to create a collection. It's going to be called connections ref, and see what I'm doing. And I want to make sure you guys understand what I just did. Ref, oops, database dot ref slash connections. You guys get what I just did? What is this going to show in my database? Right? It's going to create a sub in my root. It's going to create a sub collection called connections. Okay, that's what I'm doing over here. Okay? Okay, good. I'm glad you guys can see that. Okay, the next one, again, if you look at the documentation, to capture this, there's the this thing. Let me copy this over, and then first of all, we're going to understand what this part is doing. Do you guys understand the second line? Same thing. It's creating a, I already have this instance. So basically it is kind of the same thing, right? As the previous line, it's creating a collection, but it's kind of weirdly named. It's called .info/connected. Okay, but before I go into that, you guys understand the same thing, same concept. It's kind of creating a new sub collection. Okay, now this is a defined collection for Firebase. Firebase already has this built in. So basically, it has to be, the second collection has to be named like this, By this, you are telling Firebase to manage or make sure who's visiting my website, or how many people are visiting, or how many times my website has been opened. Okay, Firebase internally is going to store all that data in this collection. Okay, you don't have to worry about how to see it and what to do with it. The only thing is you have to define it exactly this way. So you have to create a reference. The first one is our reference, and this is so that I can show you guys that, oh, somebody's coming to my website, so I can do something also. But the more important is this one, and this is from Firebase, and they are kind of keeping track of this information in this collection. Okay, but it has to be defined .info/connected, and that's how Firebase differentiates user collections and its own collections. They have a dot over here, so they are reserved that dot for themselves. Okay, that's all this part is doing. Again, this is already in the documentation. I'm just literally just following this one. So if I do this connected ref dot on, and then I have a value, and then a callback function which is success, and let's call it snapshot. Okay, so what is this doing? It doesn't matter what the reference is, right? It's basically going to this reference and basically looking for the event if anything changes for this collection. Okay, the same event that we have been looking for in the previous exercises, right? The only thing what it is doing, if there's any change to this one. Okay, and how is this going to change? This is how Firebase is keeping track about your connection to the website. Okay, so if you open your website in 2 different tabs, this is the collection that's going to have the number 2 or whatever. Okay, so basically you're saying if this changes, and then say if snapshot dot val, so this means there's a value in snapshot. Let's look at this. Basically, if snapshot is true, okay, my connections ref dot push. So we're going to, again, this is some code that is actually on their website. It's not something that we have or I have kind of created. Connections ref dot push. This is interesting. Remember, John, you were asking, we are using the set method. It kind of overrides it, and we'll take a look at this on Thursday. Push is the one that's going to add elements or data to your database. Okay, and we'll take a look at push in more detail later on. Okay, right now I just want to show you the capability of this connection one, and then what is it called? On disconnect dot remove. On disconnect dot remove. Okay, what is this doing? This is the if somebody closes your website, it's going to remove, or it's going to say, oh, somebody has actually disconnected from your website. That's all this code is doing. Okay, this is still what we call boilerplate code. You can look at the documentation. It's literally this line that I just copied. Okay, the more important part is the next one, that what's going to happen on our collection, which is this one, line number 19. So if I really quickly do connections reference dot on and event value callback function, call a snapshot, and then in my where's my code? Okay, I have this tag over here, and I have an ID called watchers. So I'm going to just copy this, my watchers, and I'm going to say if value changes, then just update my text on my HTML to snapshot dot this and I'll walk you guys through this one. Okay, so you see it says 0 people are watching. Now if I copy this and open in a new tab. Oh, fail. What did I miss? Okay, all right, so push fail, can't modify the reference. 100.info. Is there a typo here? Let's see. Dot info. Oh,
Maybe.
sorry. Yeah, thank you. I think somebody's getting it. Yeah, that was the issue. Okay. That was a disappointment. Let me go back and show you guys again. It's already 2, but let's see. So if I open in a third tab, the number kind of goes up and it keeps going up as more people, as your website is opened multiple times. You see the number of people? So Firebase is keeping track of this. If I close it, you will see my next tab shows 3 people. And it's pretty instantaneous. 2 people are watching. Okay. If you look at your database, it's kind of adding these connections over here. We don't have to worry about these IDs. These are IDs generated, but this is our connections. It's kind of setting how many times or how many people, I won't say people, but how many times your website is being accessed or is currently open. So if I deploy it to GitHub or something and give you guys link and everybody opens that website, it's going to increase that number and show you these many people are actually have opened your website. Okay, this is useful in cases, for example, if you're working your Coders Day example and you want to find out, oh, how many people are watching, you say it shows on your website saying, oh, 2 people are watching this bid. This is how you keep track of it. Okay, and it was pretty quick, but I just wanted to show you this was last thing, and this is under enable offline capabilities. Again, this code is boilerplate. You can copy paste this, look at the documentation, and I can go over it again if you have any questions. But the more important is setting up your Firebase. At least you guys should know how do you access your database from your from your JavaScript code. Okay. Again, Thursday we are going to continue on Firebase. We're going to create a few more apps and make sure that we understand before we go into our project week. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Make sure you guys are practicing Firebase. It's not as easy as it looks like.